Why are so many people moving outside of Winnipeg? You see, on this channel I talk a lot about how people are moving to Winnipeg, and now it seems like Winnipeggers are moving outside of Winnipeg. So let's dig into that. Welcome back, my name is Cody and I'm a realtor here in Winnipeg and surrounding areas, and today we're talking about why a lot of people seem to be moving outside of Winnipeg to these satellite small town communities. So before we get into that, let's talk about a little context about Winnipeg and its demographics and why this makes sense. So Winnipeg is a unique city in Canada because it has over half of the province of Manitoba's population within one city center. Now that's important because when you look at the population of Winnipeg, which is right around 800,000, the next closest city of Brandon is nowhere near in comparable size. And so what that causes is a lot of industry stays near Winnipeg, which causes a lot of the economy to be from Winnipeg and a lot of the people to be in Winnipeg. Which means when people want to leave the city but stay at their current job, they can't really move to other cities unless they switch provinces. When they have family here and they want to stay within the province because they like being in Manitoba, they move to these small towns outside of Winnipeg where it's a little more affordable than buying a nice place inside the city, and it's a little more highway driving, but the benefits seem to be worth the cons for these people. And so let's talk about some of these different communities and why some of them are better than others and what each has to offer. So one of the first ones I want to talk about is actually a small town that I grew up in, which is the small town of Salle. Now Salle is just south of Winnipeg. It's a small community of about 3,000 people, and it's about a 20-minute drive from the heart of the southwest part of Winnipeg. So it's actually pretty close to the city. It's about 45 minutes to downtown. It's a lot of highway driving, and as a lot of the city continues to grow southwest into Bridgewater, LaSalle feels much closer. Now LaSalle is sort of divided into a couple of different sections. You have Kingswood, which is a much nicer area, very expensive homes along the golf course. You have the sort of old part of LaSalle, which is normally homes that range from anywhere from the 60s to the early 2000s, depending on when they were built. And then you have a newer part that in the last 15 years has really had a lot of construction, and that's where a lot of these newer style homes, townhomes, attached homes exist in the town. Because of this, the average price can really range. Kingswood is usually going to be in the neighborhood of around $1 million, but the interior part of LaSalle usually ranges between $350,000 to about $550,000, depending on the size and style of the home you want. Okay, another popular small town is the town of Niverville, which has seemingly exploded in the last 15 years. Part of this is because Niverville is actually starting to get its own microeconomy. Now it is a little bit further from the city. It's a good 20 to 30 minutes from being anywhere reasonable in terms of amenities, but Niverville has a ton of options for new construction homes that are affordable, and it's because it's a town of almost 6,000 people now, it is quite a bit bigger, and they are starting to get a lot more amenities, and I think they're actually approaching like city status. Average price of a house in Niverville this year was right around $500,000. And so if you're comparing living in a Bridgewater house, moving to Niverville, it's about $100,000 to $150,000 cheaper for a very similar style of house. Now, it is sort of on an offshoot of a highway. It's single lanes both way. The lines aren't really painted that well, and so for snow clearing it can be a little dicey in the winter, but that's part of the cons of living in small towns. Okay, another small town that seems to be really popping off is the town of Lorette. This is a bit further east and a bit more north of Niverville, sort of almost halfway between Steinbach and Winnipeg. About 15 minutes away from city amenities, and I think it's about 12 minutes away from the city perimeter, so it's very close to the city of Winnipeg. It's just going under the number one and an offshoot highway. It's all highway driving. Lorette has been a small town for a while. It's a town of about 3,000, 3,500 if you include sort of the greater area. And there is a large diversity of homes similar to LaSalle. There is some newer communities closer to where the high school is. And then there is some older homes as well as a lot of larger homes. And so the average house price in Lorette can actually get up pretty high. It ranges between $400,000 to $700,000, again depending on the size, but Lorette has something that LaSalle doesn't have, even though it's only a little bit bigger, which is condos. So LaSalle only recently has added some more multifamily units and higher density units, but Lorette has a couple of different condo buildings, a couple of apartment buildings. And so even if you're not trying to buy a house, but you still want to live outside the city, Lorette could be a great option. Okay, sort of continuing our rotation around Winnipeg here, the next city is, or the next town is Oakbank. And Oakbank has actually grown tremendously in the past decade or so. They are over 5,000 people now. And so again, similar to Niverville, they are sort of approaching a city status. Oakbank is a well-developed town. It's got most amenities that you would want from a small town. It doesn't have quite as much new construction as towns like Niverville and LaSalle and Lorette have, but it is still growing. And it's a little bit further from Winnipeg. It's a solid 20 to 25 minutes from a good chunk of where you would find most amenities that you want. It's about a 40 to 45 minute drive from the core of the south or the northeast. But a lot of people that I know live in Oakbank love that country living. They also love that lake life because you're about 40 minutes closer to your cabin or other spots and Lake of the Woods. So it could be a great option for something like that. If you're looking for a more small town experience that's a little bit bigger, a bit more developed, but isn't quite as expensive. The big pro about Oakbank that a lot of people don't know is that most of these homes are actually on larger lots than they are in some other small towns. So when they built Oakbank, they did a good job of dividing it into bigger sections, which has allowed for people to have bigger lots than they typically would in a regular city. Okay, and the last small town that I'll highlight is going to be Ile-des-Chênes, which is just south of Winnipeg. It's about a 15 or 20 minute drive. Now, Ile-des-Chênes has grown a lot, but the big difference between Ile-des-Chênes and St. Adolphe and St. Agathe and all those sort of cities off of the 75 highway is that a lot of them are actually starting to prioritize building multifamily units because they're trying to make it more affordable for renters and low-income housing for people that want to live outside the city but still want to have easy access to the city. This is the best city if you don't like winter driving or highway driving because you're right off the 75. Those roads get cleared immediately. They're the first ones to get cleared within the province. And so often if there's bad roads or winter roads, you won't have a problem with your commute into the city. Now, because it is a bit more accessible to Winnipeg, the prices are usually a bit higher. And so while you can get some more affordable homes, average price of the house is still around $470,000, and it's a little bit smaller than the typical house in Niverville. So you're not getting quite as much value, but that is because you are closer to the city. Okay, so we've highlighted 5 different small towns and the sort of average demographic and type of house in these towns, but something that's important that we should talk about is why people are starting to move outside the city. Because it's not just for lifestyle choices, as some people might always think. A lot of the times it has to do with sort of value. You can get more bang for your buck outside the city. It's hard to find a house that you like in the neighborhood you like, and so you might as well have a house that you like in a nice community where it's very safe, crime is very low, you don't have access to amenities that you have in the city, but a lot of people moving outside of Winnipeg are city employees. So police, firemen, paramedics, a lot of the people that deal with a lot of troublesome stuff inside of Winnipeg. It's a great way to disconnect work from home life. You drive outside of the city boundaries and all of that work stress disappears. It's left in the city where you work. And so a lot of police and firefighters and paramedics are choosing to live outside the city so they can have better life and work balance, and they can enjoy their bigger lots, sort of a more peaceful style of life. And so if you were curious what it's like to live outside the city or what it's like to grow up outside the city like I did, reach out to me. Let's talk about what are some of these small town options for you as a buyer, or if you're a seller looking to get out of these small towns or maybe move into a smaller unit inside of one of these small towns, reach out to me. I'd love to give you a free evaluation. Thanks for watching.